Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the latest episode of Another Job Bites the Dust. This week's guest is Alessio Avezzano. He is a director and a writer as well. It was quite interesting because he was born in Rome, grew up in Scotland, and then spent a significant amount of time in China. So immediately there was so much to get into. As I said, he's a director, so we discussed his path, his very interesting journey from early days to going to China and finding an entry point there into the filmmaking business. It was quite fascinating and a little bit mind-blowing, not gonna lie. So I hope you enjoy the episode. As always, viewer discretion is advised, and I'll see you on the next one. Hello, Mr. Alessio Avezzano.
Yeah.
Did I say that properly?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
How do you pronounce your name?
So I go by Sylas Subwich.
Sylas.
Subwich.
With a B?
Subwich, yeah.
Subwich.
See, that's the weird one. People keep hearing V in there. That's funny. It's just Hungarians, we place our stuff weird.
Subwich, okay.
Yeah. Right, so let's get the obvious out of the way. So you're a director, first and foremost. That's why I know. If you do something else, now's the time to say, I also have a music project, or I've been singing in a band for the past 24 years.
Definitely not singing, no. No, I'm a director with a cinematographer background, so I do a lot of self-shooting. I go between directing and camera work.
All right, fair. I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Spotter writing as well.
Okay, I mean, some of that stuff you need to explain to me, but that's pretty cool. And you've been born and raised in Scotland.
No, I was born in Rome,
right?
Just outside Rome, in a city called by the sea called Ostia.
Right, I have heard of Ostia actually.
Or town. I grew up there, and then my mum's from Glasgow, so we moved back to here when I was around 3, 4. Well, that's my earliest memory. So
okay. Well, no, that's sort of cool. It's because I remember you saying, I'm only half Italian. Will it be okay? I'm like, dude, the fact that first of all, you're not even born here like me, so like that already counts, because you moved here at age 3, 4, so that was pretty early on that you adapted, I'm guessing, quite easily.
Yeah. I feel more Scottish than I do Italian.
Yeah, it makes sense, culturally speaking,
Yeah.
But I was curious, has it come up early on, has it come up at all that, who are you, what do you want,
No, growing up, you have nothing to compare it to. There was, in school, sometimes you get called names.
Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah,
nothing worse than other people did. But apart from that, it just felt like,
straightforward.
There was one time I wasn't doing so well in school, and the teacher, one of the counselors, took me outside, and I think this was in high school. Asked me, how long have I been speaking English? So that wasn't good for my confidence.
Nice. Okay.
No, apart from that though, no.
I'm gonna come a bit closer. I'm vaguely aware I might be out of shot, but cool. Oh no, I mean that's good. See, the interesting thing, because obviously I keep talking to immigrants, and people move here at different ages, and at different ages people adapt very differently. The younger you are, the easier it is. And then the older you get, you form your own identity and your culture and everything. So it becomes like this interesting thing of trying to balance the two. And I'm guessing, obviously, growing up in a mixed household, that must have been you get in both cultures, right?
Yeah. I mean, my parents separated at an early age.
Okay.
My dad lived in Edinburgh and my mum lived in Glasgow. So I would visit when I visit my dad. Then I begin a big dose of the culture and things like that.
Yeah.
What was the other question?
No, it just it was basically of how it showed up, how just balancing those two. I was just curious. Obviously, everyone has their own story.
Yeah, but I mean, mostly Scottish household, but with Italian name. No one really. I mean, there's so many Scottish people with foreign names, so no one really bats an eyelid.
Yeah, no, I actually, my first landlord has an Italian surname.
Yeah.
So I was it was always funny to me because
I wanted to do like the generic Italian accent, but it's like, he's Scottish. But he's through and through Scottish. And then it shows up like Tarditi. And I'm like, huh.
Yeah, and no, it happens the other way around. When I go to Italy, like checking out a hotel or something, I give my passport and my Italian is near non-existent. They would get mad at me. They're like, your name is more Italian than me and you don't speak Italian. What's going on?
Yeah, that's one of the funny things where like both cultures are like, they both accept you, but then they always like,
yeah.
But where do you live? How long have you been here? What do you do? What do you want?
There's definitely an element of feeling like a in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting.
You've been going back to Italy a lot, or just
every few years? Cause I've got a stepsister. I've got cousins.
Okay.
I had my grandmother there. So I still have like connections there.
Yeah.
It's always one of these things like I'm gonna like spend more time there. I'm gonna learn the language, and it just doesn't happen.
Dude, I've
still got time.
I literally put up my guitar for sale, and it goes like this: it's a guitar case, a guitar stand, and a book that says "Guitar for All-in-One for Dummies." I bought all this in the lockdown. I was like, I'm gonna learn guitar.
Yeah.
You know. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
I just did everything else but learning guitar, so I can relate to having these great dreams and ambitions.
It's not too late though. You bought the guitar, so
I'm selling it now. I was like,
see, I had the same thing because I tried to learn the drums when I was a kid, and I've never. I still know a few beats, but I still have this fantasy of like I'm going to get a drum kit one day. I'm going to learn again. So I hope it doesn't end up like that.
It's gonna be the midlife crisis. What's that doing? Oh, don't mind him. He's just drumming away in the basement. Right. Well, in that case, that opens up all kinds of possibilities. You are the first, pretty sure, director that I have on the series. I interviewed actors, comedians, musicians, dancers, but you're the first, behind the camera person, and that was one of the first things I thought to myself was like, growing up, we all see the actors. All the kids are like, I'm going to be a rock star, a basketball player, musician, actor, whatever. Not a lot of kids go, I want to do what he does. I want to be the guy behind the camera telling the story. I want to tell everybody where to go and what to do. So I'm curious, how did you discover an interest in directing? How early on? How did that happen?
Yeah, it's interesting. I never ever thought, hey, I want to be an actor.
It's fair enough, different people, but it's just, you don't hear it as much. Because obviously us actors, we talk a lot, way too fucking much.
I was very attracted to cameras. Like when my parents got their first family camcorder, I was like, they didn't know how to use it. I was like, I know how to do it, everything. I'd take it out with my friends, and I had my own separate mini DV tape. I put my friend and film my friend's stuff. Copying Jackass was like a big thing.
Oh, okay.
That was like, that's how I started.
Any injuries? Any life-changing events? Okay.
But not for me though, because I was like, why do you do that? Why do you jump off this? And then that's kind of how it started. And then I had a very performative brother as well, who's like 6 years younger than me, who was very much up for doing stuff in front of the camera. And then, funnily enough, that we've worked together a lot, and we did our first television pilot that he co-starred in.
Is that Islanders? Is that
Islanders? Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that at the beginning because that's like a very good place to start and then circle around to. But you literally not that long ago had your first pilot air, Islanders. Was it just the pilot or was it everything else? Was it a whole?
It's a pilot, so it's still in the air at this moment, depending on when you're watching this. If it will get another pilot or a full series, things like that, I'm hopeful. I believe in the project, and we'll see.
I need to watch it because I don't have a TV, so technically I don't have a TV license. So I basically need to go find a person and be like, can I sit down and watch something like
Okay,
it?
I'm not going to comment. But yeah, I was really into playing with the camera. I was kind of into learning animation when I was young as well, but then I think when I started to delve into it, I felt it was too slow, the whole process, and I wasn't a great artist.
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. And then it became a point of studying, going to college to study it.
So I'm curious. So passion for cameras, and then you're like, I'm gonna try to see if I can take this further. Were you thinking I'm going to be a director? Well, like I'm just going to fuck around with cameras.
I think I definitely said I want to be a director, which is kind of impractical. Like for directing, you need to build up a lot of other experience, in my belief. So to go from nothing to I'm a director is not great. Not a great way to get started in the film or television industry. You can have to build your way up. But nowadays things have changed where you can just make your own stuff and have a calling card. But for example, I was very like, I'm going to be a director, but I didn't know anything about directing. Whereas another friend of mine from college, he did an application for a training program in London where they would train him to be a camera assistant. So he went down to London to do that training, and then I, from day one, I'm a director. He's worked in every major film like you can think of, and he's not stopped working. And whereas like it's taken me a long time to get to where I am, which
Fair
is
enough.
Yeah.
But then you get to be like, yeah, but I've been a director this whole time. I've got a 10-year career as a director, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, that's. I think for this whole field, you have to have someone says a reasonable amount of unreasonability.
Yes, that is fair because
You have to be slightly unreasonable.
Yeah, no, you have to have this crazy belief that, you know what, I got time, I will make it, or I've got a really good chance of making it.
Yeah.
And just don't look at the odds.
Yeah.
Fuck the odds. Don't think about the odds.
Don't get a trade or get a trade.
No, but see, that's the weird thing with our industry, because obviously in other businesses you got a clear career path. You know, there's a ladder. You know, I'll become manager, I'll become regional manager, I'll become GM, I'll become whatever, right? In ours, it's not talked about that much, but there's like, I know some of my friends work behind the scenes. So, you know, you start out, I'm not even a runner, you start out like, what is it? You might,
A runner's like
you might be the entry, that might be the entry level, right?
Yeah,
Runner, and then you start going up, like, one day you might become a second assistant director or something. Maybe one day, maybe not.
There's like routes. There's one route where it's always sort of a trade.
Yeah.
Where you're on crew, and then the creative side. I mean, it's all creative, but it's.
But some of them have, like, the skills that you have, you can actually apply outside of the industry as well. Like,
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, if you're like a light technician, whatever. My uncle back home works in a theater. He's a light technician. He's like, okay, those are skills that if worst comes to worst, you're like, I can do electricity stuff.
Carpentry, joinery, it's all a big part as well. My cousins, he started off in live audio, and then slowly, especially during the pandemic, he's transitioned into doing post audio for like film and television. But he could, if he wanted, bounce between,
Right?
because it's all kind of shared experience or skill.
Yeah, no, that's one of my big things is keeping an open mind and being flexible enough that the skills you have here you can actually capitalize on, but you have to be willing. Don't just. I mean, I do the same thing. I'm an actor. But sometimes you're like, yeah, but maybe I could do some weddings and you know be a host and do some comedy there because it pays and it's still in the vicinity of what I love to do. You know.
Yeah.
And I think, especially yourself being a director, camera person, I'm guessing as you said, you don't get to do directing all the time. Sometimes you have to like navigate around it or do other stuff.
Yeah. When I was trying to get things going, I was like trying to do a bit of everything. I was doing a bit of editing, assisting, but it wasn't. And then between that, I was working in cafes or bars or stuff like that. But I wasn't really. Things weren't really taking off. This was about over 10 years ago now. And then I got invited to. Yeah, I was feeling kind of. At one point, I thought that, you know what, the thing I'm missing is I don't have an office. If I have an office, I'll have work, which is absolutely insane. But I couldn't afford an apartment and an office, so I lived in the office for a few months. and it still didn't take off.
You just said something that just resonated with me, because recently my website had to get renewed.
Yeah.
I did it through Wix, and I was like, I was supposed to pay 300 quid for the next 3 years to have this website, and I'm like, or you can pay 100 quid for the next 3 years, only have the domain name, the website's still there, but the only difference is you get an ad that says this website was made through Wix, and I was like, I can probably have that and save 200 quid. You know, I don't need at this stage.
Yeah, people don't care. They want just a place to find your stuff or.
Yeah, but we all fall in love with the glitz and glamour a little bit, and this is why it needs to look professional.
Yeah. So after that, I got an invitation to go to Thailand and help my friend run accommodation for summer. So I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good break.
Travel experience.
I did that, and then I never came home for like 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
You spent 10 years in Thailand?
No, so I was coming to the end of my time in Thailand and feeling like I wasn't ready to come back because I didn't feel like I have much. You know, this is before like YouTube really blew up. So in terms of working, there wasn't as much as there is now. There was television, there was film, there was ads for TV, but the space for advertisements and branded content and stuff like that wasn't really established yet. So there was a lot less work.
And we have to keep in mind that that's some of the most well-paying stuff.
Yeah, it keeps a lot of people going. So yeah, I wasn't really feeling I had much to go back to, and I kind of wanted to keep the adventure going. And I spoke to a lot of people that would come through the accommodation that were teachers.
Right.
And they were saying, dude, if you want to, you want to keep traveling and get a job, you could teach easily in Korea, Japan, or China, especially China at that time.
English or?
Teach English, yeah.
I've got a friend who's constantly telling me if you want to get a good job, just go to China. You just need
Don't go now.
Yeah.
Maybe go late. Let's see what happens. But at the time, so I applied for a job. I got a job in a city called Yangzhou, which is a small Chinese city, but it's still like 2 million. I'd never heard of it. Didn't even know how to say hello in Chinese, in Mandarin, and I had £200 in my bank. I bought a ticket, flew over there.
Oh my friend, you are technically a double immigrant already. I'm loving this.
So yeah, I taught. It was like a working holiday. Like I met some amazing people. Soon after that, I told my brother, like, dude, come work here. This is a lot of fun. He came out as well. After the first year, then I started to feel like this isn't very fun anymore, and I want to get back and focused again on getting back in what I want to do.
Yeah, but it's still a useful experience. But
well, it definitely took away the nerves of speaking in public, because sometimes you'd have a class of like 50 people or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is going to be the podcast about what's it like living in China and teaching English in a second, because I've got so many questions. That's like a whole different thing.
All right, you can ask me a question.
I mean, I'm just curious about so first of all, 2 million people in the city, no biggie. Then we've got a class, as you said, 50 people on the regular, or what are we doing here?
So the school was still like rules are very fast and loose. It's tight, a bit more tight now. But the school was still figuring out how to run things. So you'd have a class. You'd say. You'd have like a level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6,
right.
7 maybe, I can't remember, of an English lesson. So depending on the students' ability, they would come to your class. It's an after-school thing,
right? So,
and it's also adults.
Okay, so it's based on ability, not like your year 1, year 2, year 3.
Yeah. It's ability. I think they get assigned an ability or whatever. So you'd have like a level 3 would just be what's your favorite color. The level 6 would be like normal conversation.
And this is any ages
You don't actually have to any ages, like from little kids to adults. Sometimes mixed in the class is quite funny. So it's something they do after school hours or like if between work and things like that. They would sign up for your class. You'd have to say you would have to make the lesson. Like I'm going to make a lesson about it said colors or like countries or like hobbies and things like that, and then they would say, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll sign up." And if no one signed up to your class, you got a free hour. So a few of us would just try and make really boring subjects, so we had a free hour, and then we'd go out, sometimes drink, come back to a class. It was just like it was chaos. Soon they cracked down on that, and they had you had to fingerprint scan and stuff like that. But like in the beginning, it was just like
that went 0 to 100 real quick. I'm gonna go have a drink between classes too.
Yeah, and then there's
like retina scanner. You have to like welcome to.
Yeah. So I did the first year, and then the second year was like try to find a way to move on. But the school would do like class trips. Staff trips now and again, and they take you to somewhere else, and you get to see somewhere. And one time they took us to Shanghai, which was a city that was 4 or 5 hour drive, 3, 4, I can't remember. So, far enough. And they took us there for a day or two, and then I got to Shanghai and then realized I saw so many foreigners, and I realized like this city is it's like New York. A lot of people spoke English, and then I started going on speaking to other people, asking them what job. I assumed everyone was an English teacher. Talking to them, no, do this, and then I was Google. I'd go online and search for jobs in Shanghai, and it'd be like video production. I was like, I can do what I love here.
Oh my god!
So I applied for it.
It all comes crushing, like just rushing back, like.
So I got an interview for a company, a video production company. I didn't get it,
but the thought was already planned.
But then they contacted me like a week later saying we actually need someone next week for like a fashion expo. Mm-hmm. We need an editor. Can you come tomorrow? And then very luckily my boss at school let me go. I went and I did that job, and then they hired me after that. So then I left the school. I moved to Shanghai. Started working this company, and that was the first time I was working full time in video production. So I was
well done you.
I was terrified that I was going to get asked something I didn't know, because everything was very kind of loose. Like I'd never really done it in a professional setting full time. So I really hit like YouTube tutorials, like studying, learning what I didn't really need to know, like advanced After Effects and things like that.
And I'm guessing most of this was happening in English.
Yeah, most of it was happening in English. So I did that for a year, and then I started to get into the other thing that I loved, which is comedy. And there was this guy that was making his own kind of YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. His character name was Donnie Does, and he's like, the best way to describe him is like a reverse Borat. He's like a dumb American in China, like Bostonian.
Yeah.
Getting himself into like ridiculous situations, and at first I thought he was like an idiot until I realized he was a character, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I luckily ran into him one night. I was like, I'd love to make stuff with you, and then he was like,
just randomly in Shanghai.
Yeah, it's a small. It's the biggest city in the world, but it's also like a small village when you talk about foreigners and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. So you'd.
I said, I'd love to make stuff with you. And then he told me that he just got hired by a startup company that were making cross-cultural comedy content. And he put me forward to the boss. And then the boss asked me to come work for him. So I left that company, went there. I was making comedy again. Kind of the first time, like full time. And then I was directing, doing camera work, and did that for a year. Created a sketch show called Mamahuhu. I don't know, did you see that online? Mamahuhu.
I don't think I have.
So we started this sketch show called Mamahuhu, which was like cross-cultural, being an expat, living overseas, living in China, kind of relatable comedy content, and that blew up. Now it's like 190,000 subscribers. We don't really make it anymore because I moved here, but that really took off.
And I'm guessing that was your first real taste of like, I can have success on YouTube.
Yeah, but it didn't really pay. Like it wasn't. Because like the sketches involve a lot of people. If it was like one person vlogging, you could maybe upload enough, make a living off it. But it was such a big operation that everyone was donating their time to. It didn't really make it enough to live off. But I did that for another year, and then I'd gotten a lot better, a lot more confident, and there was a lot more freelance work came in. So I quit that job and I went freelance, and I was mostly a freelance cinematographer, DOP.
Yeah.
And at that time in Shanghai, a lot of international productions were coming through because they want to do a car commercial where it's like the guys driving around the world. Shanghai would be one of those cities they come to. So you have a lot of like people coming in and they need like English crews or
people that they can work with easily, quickly. So
just the sheer variety of stuff that came through Shanghai, I just gained so much experience and skill. And I'd go between a DOP and a shooting director or director. Because it's a new industry as well, so it allowed you to be flexible. A lot of other places, like
they have
London,
established,
like you're one thing, but I got to like mix up a lot, and I did that for over 8 years, and yeah,
just freelancing away in Shanghai.
Just freelancing away in Shanghai. I started a company, and then eventually got the rights to that YouTube channel back, so I'd make that channel on the side, kind of growing that, and then during the time. Towards the end of my time in Shanghai, I was realizing that I don't want to just do brand stuff. I want to do the equivalent of the YouTube channel, but do it on as a career. Like have opportunities to do film and television, which you don't have in like living in a foreign country like China.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just doing like.
I mean, I don't know what the rules are there in China of trying to get stuff on that television there, but it's like a different network.
Cultural differences as well. Like they wouldn't really hire a foreign director to direct like Chinese comedy kind of thing. So
yeah, it would be a different style.
In a fringe kind of like small pocket. I was making stuff, so I knew that if I wanted to keep going, I'd have to move back home, or move to London, or move to
the US or
the US or something like that to continue.
Yeah, where the style of comedy is something that they can already understand.
Yeah. Where I'd have like more opportunities in that area. So. We started to make plans to come back to Scotland.
I'm just like taking this all in because you have one of the most unique paths in sort of forging your way into your career. So I growing up, I was like, once I decided I was like 18, I want to become an actor. I looked around and for me it was, well, okay, I'm in Eastern Europe. Acting has a ceiling here, but where it does not have one is in the UK or in America. So I looked at the English market and I was like, let's go. And then I studied here because I'm going to give myself the best chance and things like that. But you were here and you were like, nah, let me go the completely different market, and did all like the 8 years of a career. That's huge.
I wasn't smart in my early decision making, and I wasn't skilled. I wasn't skilled.
Hang on, you say that, but the level of experience and work you managed to do over there, I mean, it rivals.
But that's where I got, for sure, like, me being there, I gained way more experience, way faster, way varied, than I would have had I stayed, I believe.
I mean, I can see the argument for it, because you said here the industry is a bit more regimented. There's already, rules set, and you can't just go, I'm going to try this site easily.
But there at that time, just so much was happening, and there was such a demand for, and not a lot of English-speaking talent. So yeah, it was like documentaries for Range Rover, BMW, Disney, some stuff with the BBC would come through. It just changed all the time. So I'm really thankful for my time there, and that I got to have such a variety of experience. So when I came back here, I was starting from scratch because I didn't really know anyone in the industry here. But I did have a really good portfolio that helped me to get started again.
That's one of my go-to questions, is when you come back here, I'm curious, behind the scenes work, how does it translate? Do they look at it and go, wow, we don't know what that means? And they're like, okay, we know you work for this company, this company, this company. You did this and this and this. We can understand that. We can...
Behind the scenes work?
So behind the camera, behind the camera, not behind the scenes, behind the camera work.
You just have to have a portfolio, and then like even if they glance at it, they can see brand names, and then obviously they watch some of it.
Like it translates.
Okay, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then they're willing to give you a chance. If you don't have that, it's very difficult, I would imagine. You would have to go back to the traditional way of building yourself up, or make your own stuff that gets a lot of attention. TikTok, for example, a lot of creatives are born through TikTok.
Yeah.
Before YouTube.
That's one of my go-to thing now when people go, like I was trying to understand the business a little bit, and I was like, okay, creativity is nice, but you have to have distribution, following, all that stuff. And you got TikTok. Well, TikTokers just getting lead roles in movies because they have that following, and the studio goes, that would be nice. Yeah. There's a couple of bucks in there.
I've heard stories of like TikTok comedians not doing so well when they do their show because it's not translated as well. But the opposite is also
it's challenging. No, you're absolutely right. There's a classic story of stand-up comedians trying to do TikTok. I'm one of them, and basically, it takes time and you need to put in the effort. It's not like, oh, I'm good at comedy, I'm just gonna do TikTok. No, it's a different style of comedy slightly. But also, that's the trying to go back and forth. I was reading this entire article breaking down TikTokers who were doing the Edinburgh Fringe. Some were doing great, some were doing not so well. But this transition of like from short form, there's an idea that I can sell in 20 to 30 seconds up to a minute sometimes. Or now I think you can do 3 minutes now on TikTok as well. But
I think 10 minutes now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, probably. But most stuff is like 20 to 30 seconds. And taking that and forming an entire conversation where you got callbacks and things like that, it's not different genre, but you could almost call it that. It's a different way of building up. It's the way, sketch, film, not the same thing,
No. Some people do really well that way. And what was the initial point? Was, how to build yourself up.
Yeah. It's just distribution.
Yeah, it's either through doing your own stuff or it's through working your way up the ranks these days, I think.
Fair enough, man. I love this idea that you literally just backhanded yourself into like a...
Not by purpose, I was just lost. I had nothing better to do. I was lost, and then... I still had a drive to like...
Even when you're lost, if you still have, if you don't give up completely, like you took a break, and then the moment you found an opportunity, you launched at it.
I remember someone saying when I took the teaching job, I think I posted something on Facebook or something, and then someone said, "Congratulations on your new career." And I was like, "No, I'm just doing this. It's just a working holiday. I'm still, I still want to be a director." That's when they said that, it scared me. I'm not doing this forever. I'm just like, taking a year out there. I was so excited to discover Shanghai. Was this place a few hours away that was like I could do any job. At that time I was so excited.
I'm still just like taking this all in. Like, this is fucking amazing. Well done, you, man.
Oh, honestly, we had this amazing kind of group kind of built out of it as well. We had, as I said, Donnie. His name's Zach. We had my friend Andy and a bunch of comedians, and Andy was trying to start like stand-up shows in Shanghai, which didn't really exist. So he was like hiring the corner of a bar and putting on a show. Everyone was kind of like figuring out a way to do things and really like growing from it. So he went from that to he started bringing over big acts from America.
So he became a full-on promoter.
He did that, and then he got the attention of Eddie Izzard's manager, saying, "Would you like to put a show on? Help us put a show on in Shanghai for Eddie Izzard." And he, almost by himself, put Eddie Izzard at the equivalent of the Hydro in Shanghai by himself. And then that got the attention of Live Nation, which is the biggest events company in the world. And they were like, "Who are you?" And then they offered him a job to be the head of Australasia, the head of Asia for comedy. They took him on. Now he's the head of Australasia, so Australia, New Zealand. He's the head of comedy for that. Zach, who's Donnie Does, is now working for Barstool Sports, which is a huge...
Yeah, I have heard of Barstool Sports. I'm not complete.
And he's very well known now, getting a lot of success from that. So it's just this kind of magic time. I think right place, right time.
Yeah. Just there was enough freedom and enough flexibility.
And then like enough like energy and like
and there was also
gaps
like
to fill.
Yeah, there was a market as
Yeah.
well. Because if it's already a saturated market, which I think the UK can be a saturated market a little bit. It might feel like it.
Yeah,
like especially
a lot
like
more competition.
Yeah, on the acting side, there's so many actors. Like every year, there's like another couple of thousand, or probably more, actors just entering the wide-eyed and full of dreams.
I mean, and then for like at that time in Shanghai, if you wanted a English-speaking director who lived there, who spoke a little Chinese, then you had like a handful of people to select from. So it was so you were in a lot more demand.
Yeah. Again, it's just fucking wow, just walking into one of the biggest upcoming markets without realizing it, and just grabbing life by the balls, pretty much.
Yeah, it was a great way to spend my 20s and early 30s for sure.
Nice. Well, again, well done you. Well done you.
Appreciate it.
The other thing I was going to ask about, so coming back, so when you came back to Scotland and...
So we made plans to come back. So I met my wife over there. We just had a kid. So that was another reason for coming back. I felt it would be a better environment, a lot more nature to grow up here. We'd made plans to come back in the summer of 2020.
Okay, wow. Oh, you literally hit the ground running. My dude.
Yeah, I'm not long back. And then we were on holiday for New Year in Thailand, and then the pandemic broke out in China.
Right, oh yeah.
So we were on holiday trying to figure out what we were going to do, watching the news. Just every day we're like, okay, we're going back to Shanghai. No, let's just go straight to Scotland, and decide back and forth for like we stayed like a month, a few weeks longer than we intended to, just watching the news, and then eventually decided, you know what, let's just go straight to Scotland, because at that time nothing was happening. It was all in China. So we came to Scotland in beachwear, like a shirt like that in February.
This is my. I have this is my everyday wear.
I know.
Okay.
I love it. It's beautiful. Just total beachwear February.
Yeah, so you just came back from you went on holiday. You're like, yeah, we're going straight to
Scotland, and then I tried to hit the ground running, tried to get work. I was starting to get somewhere, and then we locked in. So I was just living with my parents for a year, just waiting to see what happened. We had to ship all of our stuff back. We had to get someone to pack our bags in China. We never went back and send it all here. So it was very abrupt coming back. And then just try, and then waiting for things to get good enough that I could try and meet people, and because I missed out on all those kind of networking opportunities. Cause I couldn't meet anyone in person.
Yeah. This is I'm in that level right now where I'm like, okay, I'm doing my own stuff. I'm also like trying to make it in the industry. I need to network. Like I look at it as that's the three things: build your own audience, create your own work, network. Like that's that's like the three pillars, I think.
For sure.
And they just feed into each other. You do work, you network, you do work, you build audience. It all goes round and round and round. But yeah, obviously with the lockdown, the networking was like a no-no. And Zoom networking, I don't think it's really.
No, I never did any of those. But yeah, I heard about comedians doing shows on Zoom and things like that.
Yeah, I did one thing, which was a BBC short stuff, which I think you work with.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so I did, they had like an event where you could like ask questions and just learn about how it works, the entire system. And they had like a little room where you put with 5 people and you talk on Zoom a little bit. It was all right, like it's better than nothing. At least I met someone that I remember your face, and when I actually meet you in person, I'd be like, oh, we did this thing. But it's not the same where you can actually just lay back, have a chat, have a drink, whatever, and just relax and get to know people.
Did you ever feel like you lost some of your social abilities during that year? Because I've sometimes I feel like, am I awkward because of that year, or I'm just normally like this? But like I remember going to the film festival and there was a networking event, and it just felt really weird, just like walking up to someone going, hey, what's up? in person, after being through all of that.
Interesting. I don't think I felt that. Like when I go into a room, and like I did a couple of networking events since, and obviously I don't know anyone, and it feels like everybody else knows everybody else, and you're the only one who doesn't know anyone. So I did have that feeling, but I was like, well, fuck it, gotta start somewhere. Also, I work in hospitality, so whatever I had sort of weird behaviors had to go away very quick because I just had people sitting down constantly. Also, technically, my lockdown sort of away from people only lasted a couple of months because we started doing takeaways and delivery about June 2020. So that was like 3 months. So I was already back with other people, you know, talking shit, waiting on orders, packing them.
Yeah.
So I wasn't fully isolated, I think.
Yeah, but that's good.
Yeah, but I for myself, I didn't mind it because I had all the free time to do whatever I wanted and sort of do my creative stuff. And I ended up just, as I said to you before.
Learn guitar.
Well, did not learn, bought a guitar, and then I ended up just watching the worst films ever made and reviewing them. I think I reviewed like 7 of them.
Are you on, what's it called? What's the app called? Doesn't matter. Dead Air. Never mind.
YouTube, TikTok, Twitter.
Where you go to review films?
Oh, so no, it wasn't like film, it was like a 20-minute review and recap of, I watched this film, and it's all on YouTube. I would just find IMDb, Metacritic, and Rotten Tomatoes. I would find like public reviews, and if it was slated as 5.5 or less, I would watch it, and then I would give recap, review, take the piss out of it, all that stuff.
See where it went wrong.
Yeah, but it was, that's the thing that I always tell people, it's very educational to see not only the great stuff, but the really bad stuff as well, because it just gives you more context of like, just more in-depth knowledge of, this is how you can go wrong. And it's not just, I need to do this, I also need to not do this, and then it's just a clearer picture.
If they can make that, then I can make this.
Yeah, it's also that, like, you know, I guess they'll make any film these days, you know? Yeah. But I'm again impressed because you said you came back in 2020, and I remember like things started popping up. Obviously, common friend George, his episode is out next week, by the way. And I remember seeing him in Clash of Clans. I think that's one of the is it not Clash of?
It may as well be Rise of Kingdoms.
Rise of Kingdoms, Clash of Clans, talking rubbish. Yeah, Rise of Kingdoms. I just remember him with like a full-on medieval soldier get-up, like whoa.
That was like one of the fortunate jobs that was from my time in Shanghai that I convinced him, let me just do it here during like between lockdowns, I'll film it here. I actually felt kind of like, when I look back at those ones, I felt, man, I was rusty because I'd gone through this like quiet period. I felt like I didn't pull it off as well as I should have. George is great, but I felt like I could have done.
I'm not gonna lie, you did pretty well. Like, it was one of the more entertaining commercials. Normally when I look at ads, you know, on YouTube, you just skip them. But I was was watching, I was like, that's funny. That's funny.
Did it come up on YouTube for you?
No, I saw it on Instagram.
Okay.
I saw it on Instagram. George was promoting it, obviously.
We did another round with him, and I felt those were much better. When we had like stuff on the mountain, and robbery and stuff like that. I think they were better. But yeah, I felt that first batch kind of suffered because of me like being kind of rusty. Just personally. I
mean, that's might be one of those things that you know, but because we just have no idea. Because I enjoyed them, not gonna lie.
But yeah, that was when I came back. I just kept emailing people. Luckily, I had some stuff still from Shanghai come through, like that one. But I knew to get where I wanted to go, one of the best connections I needed to make was BBC The Social.
Yep.
So I tried to get in contact with someone from there, and I got through them, and then I pitched some ideas because I was living on the Isle of Arran at the time, which is where my parents now live. And I pitched them, hey, a couple of sketches about like moving to the countryside, or
you did I remember the sketch. Did you do the one about when it gets dark in the village?
Country Dark, yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember that one, and I remember the robbery one that was during lockdown.
The robbery one?
Yeah.
That was short stuff.
Yeah.
But the Country Dark, I think, was the last one I did in The Social, which got me a meeting with Short Stuff. And then I did the robbery one with Short Stuff, and that's like their second most viewed sketch they've made. It's like 35 million on Facebook.
It was funny.
It was again right time, right place.
It was.
It was
funny.
right in the middle of lockdown. Yeah, so I keep saying yeah. So
Listen, you be you. This is about you. Quirks and all. This is about you.
but BBC Social got me to BBC Short stuff, and then I got to pitch to them. I said I have an idea for a sitcom, and then by that time I'd obviously built enough of a relationship for them to consider it.
Yeah, so like you had their trust, and you're like, okay, he's done this, and yeah, that makes sense. Just a working business relationship.
And they went for it.
And then, I mean, I'm guessing you got things you're not allowed to talk about because I know about NDAs and things like that. But hopefully that keeps on going. I mean, well done you again. I'm just. This is me just going, well done. I'm like just
Thank you.
validating everything you've worked so far.
Glad someone said it. No, I'm. It's a total dream come true. It's been a goal. The idea of this show is it's younger generation trying to get by on a remote island in Scotland, which has, finite opportunities, limited resources. They're getting priced out of their own home because it becomes more of a tourist destination. It's a different place in the summer than it is in the winter because of tourism.
Yeah, I remember reading an article that there's a whole ongoing debate right now, and not even debate, just like a thing of like, calm down with can you just not sell everything, please?
Yeah. So it leaves a lot of younger people lost, and then the story of the sitcom is a couple of chancers are just trying to do anything they can to make money and get on top. So kind of saying yes to anything, even if they're not qualified, from like carpentry to furniture removals and things like that. Where it's also surreal that it can go off the deep end as well. I think there's so much more much more. You can tell.
You tapped into something,
There's
especially
limited police and things like that, so you can make up your own rules. A lot of it's based on like real stories as well that I've heard from friends that live there and family that live there as well. It's just, to me, fascinating. One of the characters is Maisie.
Is that the one played by Rachel Flynn?
She got out. Her character got out when she was old enough and moved to the city, and only comes back when she's messed up in the city, so she has to come back to the island, which is kind of me because my parents moved to Ireland when I was 18. So whenever I messed up, I'd have to come back to Ireland, but I didn't grow up in Ireland, so I was always kind of didn't really know anyone. So I kind of relate most to that character, but after living in Shanghai, I come back to Ireland. It's such a beautiful place as well, so it deserves to be seen more on camera.
Now you tapped into something with the cultural, economic aspects, and also obviously just the local scene and just presenting and bringing it's not something that's seen regularly.
No,
on TV.
It seems like a lot of comedy, especially from Scotland, is from the Central Belt and more specifically from Glasgow, where there's so much more you can show. So hopefully that is one of the appeals one of the things that helps the decision to tell more stories on the sitcom. And it's showing you a landscape that a lot of people travel to see, and a lot of outsiders, people from other countries are more interested in as well. So maybe it could have more of an appeal as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's when you talk about saturation in the market, if the story is all told here and here and here, or just one specific region, then at some point, you get enough of superhero movies, you want to hear something else. You get enough of that specific region. That makes sense.
So, yeah, I think
that's a round of applause for you as well from the other room.
I think in the next month or so, they'll make a decision if anything else is going to happen with it. But
fair play. That just leads into a natural question. What's it like pitching a sitcom to the BBC?
Not what you expect.
What you're allowed to say, first and foremost.
I kind of heard about it last minute, like they're taking stuff now, and I was like, oh yeah, I've had this thing ready. Here you go. And then it happened very quickly. They're like, yep, we have to do it with it like very quickly. So it just began like that. So it was very hectic. The writing experience was the toughest part for sure.
I was going to get into that because you're a director, but from what I'm getting is, do you also write your?
So I'd only ever written sketches, and a lot of sketches were collaborations with other friends. So a lot easier to bounce ideas back and forth, and that's happened.
Yeah.
But at this point, it was up to. I wouldn't say it was all up. It was all up to me. It was up to me to get the bones of the story together. But the support from the producers was definitely grew my ability, because they were not messing around. They were like, you need more jokes here, you need more jokes here, we don't need that at start, it needs to happen quicker, things like that. So you're just getting straight to the point feedback, which was intense, but it was making things much better, and I was learning so much from that process. Like in the first draft of the script, it was like, he's like, it's a drone shot and he's riding his bike and and then this happens, and then as you're writing it, you start researching other sitcoms. How did they begin? And most successful sitcoms, if not all, establish the show in 30 seconds to 1 minute. You need to know whether it has to have a joke. It has to tell you who the characters are, where it's going. Yeah, you've got like a limited amount of time to get their attention to drive the story forward. Such a.
I mean, the classic is Whiplash. In the first scene, kind of what's going to happen. There's a drummer, there's a teacher, there's some stress. Okay, tension, let's go.
But even, I think films have more of a luxury as well, because they can take their time. And this was a 15-minute pilot. But if you look at Only Fools and Horses, it's a classic. Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah.
It's just two guys walking down the street chatting, but then you get in that 30 seconds they're New Zealanders, because they say, "Oh man, back in New Zealand." They're in New York. They're musicians and they're having women trouble. You get that in like 30 seconds. So and then my pilot starts off with two guys strapping a fridge to a rowboat, learning that and then the other friend being interested in his sister coming back, because.
And that literally sets
up. There's a lack of other people to date, so so he's like, a woman's coming to the island. You realize they're doing like any old job, and they're not doing it well. So I tried myself to have that.
Yeah, it's dropping people into the action as opposed to like, this is the build up and something's gonna happen. No, something is happening. Welcome to life.
Yeah,
that's an interesting thing when it comes to like, I'm 74 pages into my first play.
Wow.
And it's
a lot of pages.
It is a lot of pages. Some of those is page breaks. I'm not gonna lie. Every scene ends with like lights, page break. So let's say 10 pages of page breaks in there. That's even still 64 pages. So I'm just learning about structuring. There's the fictional world that you live in, and you have to follow the rules. But then on top of that, you have the layer of, I am telling this story, me, writer, director, to you, the audience. So how much, when, and what do I tell you is also very important. So I have to balance the two. And also sometimes, there's things like, well, this story is starting to get a bit boring here, so maybe I need to go into this imaginary world, find a scene that would make sense, that would add some sort of entertaining thing up here. So it's like a...
What's the story?
So the story is vaguely based on my childhood. I was raised by Jehovah's Witnesses. So I know what's it like growing up under like very strict religious and just isolated sort of group. And then I just took that, made up my own cult, made up my own rules, my own prayer, my own gods and everything separately. And just, this is the story of a teenage boy who starts having their first doubts. So it's that of like how you're, it's how when the first thought appears of like, I don't know. Just that.
So around the same time as well, it's like a teenager would start to question their parents more.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it happened. I went from like 14 to 16. I sort of started breaking away mentally. So it's kind of about that. It's how like on the one hand, it's like I want to show what's it like living in that, sort of, because it's a very different world and different rules mentally and everything. And then, so what's it like? And then what's it like having those thoughts? You know, those the first steps. And then, you know, that can go anywhere after. It can be squashed. It can, you know, become something else. So you become an actor in Scotland, even though you were born in a small town in Romania and all you knew was Jesus. But, you know.
What's your dream for that project?
My dream is to make it into a play, and I've got a couple of, into a show, and I've got a couple of people that I have in line for, like, the mum and the dad, who are not based on my parents at all, at all.
Brilliant, man. I wish you all the...
Thanks, man. Hopefully. It's I've just finished the second act, so now it's the grand finale. And I'm not going to spoil it now, obviously. But, yeah.
Well, you know, writing is rewriting. You finish it, and then you have to go back again, and you have to go back again, and you have to go back again.
Yeah, I'm finding it's... I did maths and IT in high school and programming, and I'm finding it's similar to that you start out with this idea of, like, I'm going to solve this problem like this, and then you get to this point, and you're like, right, this is not going to work. I created a scenario where it's either, you know, a paradox, or this person would not say this in this circumstance. I've already I already showed him doing this or her, you know, it wouldn't make sense for them to do this now. So I'm like, I have to circle back, either change this, or come up with a different ending, or change the character altogether. So yeah, it's that kind of, again, just different layers.
Keep at it, man, and yeah, I'll come see you.
I will let you know. I mean, at some point, I'm gonna need to, like, once it's done, I'm gonna have to table read it, and then that'll be the first table read, and then see what makes sense.
Brilliant. What's the for putting on shows like that? Is there a lot of support?
To be honest, I haven't actually looked out there to see, you know, what would be. There must be something for theatre as well. I know there's a play, Pie and a Pint. But those are strictly 45 minutes-ish shows, I think, or 45 pages. Well, it's along those lines. As I said, mine's already at 72, 74.
But you could always, like, see, take a cog out of the story.
Yeah.
That works by itself as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the classic of short film becomes long film, but you have to sell the idea first. Yeah, probably. I mean, first and foremost, I want to tell it, have it on page, and then I can start playing around with it. But until it's on the page, I can't do anything else with it. It's in my head.
The hardest part.
Yeah, but it's still entertaining. Just you and an empty page and being like, I'm going to tell you a story. That brings up the question, what's kind of your writing process, or is there a writing process, or is that work in progress?
So I'm working on something now that is feature length.
Right.
Completely by myself. Like, there's no guarantees that it'll get made, or hopefully I will finish it. But I have set a kind of goal for myself, and it's a completely different beast when you're working with something that's that length. So now I'm doing story outline.
Right.
And the way I'm doing it now is you have like 70 3x5 cards, and you just write the very basic outline for a scene, get all your scene ideas out there, and then you have those 70 scenes. You have a film. Then you start to arrange it in place, and then you start to then I will start to piece together who's this scene for, who is this person, get to know the person a bit better, and shape the script from there.
Interesting. Because I did something similar, because I would get stuck with an idea and I'd be like, okay, next few scenes, something like this is going to have to happen, something like this is going to have to happen, something like this is going to have to happen. And then obviously once you start writing it, in the moment, you come up with a solution, you know, and then you build the world, and then, okay, I can reference this in the next one. But yeah, you have to have a vague structure, but not too rigid, because that's the interesting thing with writing.
Can't start linearly. Is like from chapter 1 straight through. For me, would be absolutely impossible. I had, for the story, it's a comedy and it's a drama. So
you don't write chronologically in the story.
For this one, just because I've not properly written something this big before. It's only been like maximum 30 pages I've ever done. That I'm doing. I have all it's based on it's based on real life and stories I've heard. So I have all these funny scenes, and then some serious scenes as well. And I have an idea of who the characters are, but I'm trying this method of just getting all those scenes out, and all the funny scenes are coming first, interestingly, and then the drama I think is going to come last, and then I'll start to shape it a bit better. But it's more of an exercise to try and get the structure out there before delving in and taking it piece by piece. Because if I'm writing scene by scene, and I know the layout, then I think I'll have the stamina to finish it.
Yeah. No, you got a fair point there, because I had something similar. I was like, why am I doing this scene by scene? I mean, why am I doing this chronologically? Because sometimes you just get put off by the amount of work you got in front of you and have got no idea how to go about it in the beginning.
Because if you have a scene that's like, all right, this scene's 5 pages, and I know what the next scene is, then it's more like piece by piece, where it gives you a bit more energy to
yeah, absolutely. Like even just mentally, just the demotivational thing goes away, because like, oh, I can always do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fascinating. You do it as a puzzle. Like I'm gonna put that there, maybe that there. That might fit, might not fit. I'm gonna have to change that. But yeah, that's.
But I'm in no way like well experienced in this. This is a way I'm finding to do it in order to finish it. And then maybe I won't do it again, but
you know what?
It's quite good right now.
Right now, this is the best you've got, and that counts. And if someone's out there going, "I'm trying to write a play," maybe they'll go, "I try that as well, see what happens." You know.
I think it was a friend that recommended me and I think it's David Lynch that does it as well.
Well, in that case, you're in good company.
Yeah. So 70. If you have like an outline for 70 scenes, then you have a film.
Oh, yeah, 70 scenes. Yeah, okay. I mean, that would.
I mean, one scene could be like the guy gets on a bus.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was thinking like 70 scenes. If I was trying like the amount of time you allot to every single scene, because 70 scenes per minute. That's already 70 minutes. You got 20 more minutes. That's what I was thinking. But obviously, no, you wouldn't have as you said, some scene would be like 10 seconds.
Yeah, some could be like 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, I'll just a lot I'm learning. This sort of interview series has shifted. It started with it's all about culture, mostly about culture. Now it's becoming more about career and just in depth about like the industry and processes and techniques. And I kind of like it.
You got to do it to discover it, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I kind of go into like every interview like, let's see what happens. Like I don't know.
Exactly. Starting off with a camcorder filming my friends doing stupid stuff. That was like, let's see what happens.
And long story short, BBC. That's it. And a wrap.
I hope not.
Oh no, I mean as like the story so far. You know, like you might be wondering how I ended up here. You know, just.
Still have some of those videos.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that must be gold.
The old Glasgow as well. Well, one day I'll share.
I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I'm going to have a couple more questions. I'm going to let you go after that. One of the things I was going to ask is, obviously, you moved back to Scotland after a significant amount of time. Any culture shock there? Anything that stood out to you? Besides the lockdown and life stopping as it was?
Try to think of the top of my head. There is a lot of reverse culture shock. I have a sketch called Reverse Culture Shock, which was about like leaving China and still having like Chinese habits. Things like just the nature, the cost. Like in Shanghai, it's almost more affordable to eat out all the time than it is to cook at home. Yeah, so like you start like getting takeout, or you go to a restaurant, and then you start quickly realize, oh, I can't do this here. That's a shame. Even like the other day, I went to this Japanese yakitori place that does skewers in the south side. I was really excited to go, and then I got there and I was like, okay, let's. And I was doing the order like I was in China, because like skewers is like very like cheap,
common. Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's get this. And he's like, that's £100. I was like, what? All right, take it all back. Give me 2 skewers.
God, yeah. Yeah, I know UK. It's interesting because like the UK has a eat out culture, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then the prices are like, ouch.
And a lot of the quality is not, like British food, not great. I mean, it's got way better. It's got way better. Like, even on Arran, there's like food trucks now which didn't exist, and things like that. But for example, the like a big trend here for like desserts,
right?
It definitely doesn't compare anything to like something like France or something like that. Because like we have a cupcake, and we put like 2 Mars bars on top of it, and people are like, "Fucking wow, that's high-end pastry."
Yeah. The reason I'm laughing is because one of the interviews, I do reels to promote this stuff, and one of the reels was just this South African comedian, Stuart Campbell, and me laughing about, the food's not that great here, he says. And I'm like, well, I'm a citizen now, so I don't want to get in trouble. Put the reel out on Facebook, gets something like almost 25,000 views. For me, that's a lot, right?
That's great.
And like, one of the first comments just says, couple of duck heads, typo, okay. And the second comment just goes, well, if you don't like the food, maybe you should pack your bag and go back to your own country, say you had like the food there. And I was like,
well, it's my own country, and I do like some of the food, but some of it needs improved.
But I was just like, lady, you went from 0 to 100. From like, the food's not that great, to like, well, let me tell you.
We don't take kindly your tap around here.
Right, well, in that case, 2 questions, I'll let you go. One of them I like to ask is, creatives do all kinds of odd jobs to pay the bills. What's one of the craziest jobs that stood out to you that you got paid for? They're like, okay, I just need to do this job to get paid.
Teach English. There was one time I was taking a side job. I was teaching English and taking a side job where I had to drive to a Nike factory and teach the staff in the Nike factory some English. And then like I was always kind of eyeing up all the stuff they're making, and outside the factory there was like surplus. People must have had surplus, and they're like selling like counterfeit shoes on the street from the actual legit factory.
So you could get actual Nike shoes without the Nike brand?
Not with the Nike brand. They were just like, these are extra, sell them on the street for cheaper.
I got a good Nike.
Yeah, right outside the factory. Definitely teaching English was the weirdest job I've ever done.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds pretty wild. And the other thing I'm gonna ask is food related. So technically,
when's lunch?
No,
I don't know.
Yeah, I need to have lunch after this. I eat twice a day and I haven't eaten yet. So, no, basically, I always like to ask people wherever they're from or whatever the culture is what's the dish that people in the UK need to know about? And obviously, you grew up in the UK quite a lot. But people that are watching this might not know everything. So what's the
Italian dish?
It can be Italian, it can be Scottish, it can be very local.
I feel like for a long time people didn't really know much about burrata, which is like a bigger, creamier, like stuffed buffalo mozzarella kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's definitely it's more and more becoming common here. Fantastic. Porchetta. It's like crispy, I like crispy pork.
Yeah. Oh yeah, oh god. I had a Italian street food like near where I live, and it was this proper Italian middle-aged lady, like she made her own prosciutto, and she was like, there you go, you want a sandwich with this, a panini with that, and it was like, they moved since, and then I was very heartbroken because I never found out where they went, where they go, but yeah.
Tacos that have, because in Shanghai it's so multicultural, and I had like some of the best foreign food there I had as well, but double shelled tacos where you have both the hard shell and the soft shell, amazing. So you have that crunchy and the soft.
Interesting.
It's fantastic. Most Sichuan Chinese food is amazing. The other thing come back here, which is really good for me, is the Chinese population has grown so much, and there's so much, because it used to be just Cantonese restaurants,
right.
Like British style Chinese food used to be like the thing that was everywhere, and now there's like in every individual,
like
almost like proper Sichuan, or like hot pot wasn't a thing before, and now there's hot pot everywhere.
Yeah.
All thankful to like Chinese students coming here and going, wait a minute, all right, we need to open up our own places because we want this food. Boba tea wasn't much of a thing before.
Yeah, I love a boba.
So it's cool to have that little bit of Shanghai come back with me, or be ready for me when I came back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think we got more than one dish. There we go. Got an entire selection.
I love it.
So do I. I'm not gonna lie. So do I. Man, thank you very much for your
All
time.
right, man. Thanks for having me on.
And I'm gonna check out Islanders as soon as I can.
Islanders,
BBC iPlayer.
iPlayer, BBC Scotland, sometimes on TV.